next member of the panel, Mr. Aziz Tayyebi, Director, International Business Development, Becker Professional Education, UK. Being a qualified professional accountant from the UK and a specialist in international financial reporting standards, Mr. Aziz has worked for the ACCA on its official global policies on IFRS, financial reporting, and Islamic finance. We are happy to welcome you, sir, and we look forward to welcoming you here and hearing from you. I'm privileged to introduce to you the moderator for this session, Shri Amit Agnihotri, founder chairman, MBAUniverse.com. Shri Agnihotri is someone who lives his dreams. His professional journey began at MDI Gurugram, and since then there has been no looking back for him. In 2009, combining two of his passions, that is media and education, he founded MBAUniverse.com. And today, as we all know, it is undoubtedly India's #1 MBA portal. He has also set up the IMC in 2010, which has grown to become India's biggest MBA education conference and awards platform. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the members of the panel. And now I hand it over to Mr. Agnihotri, who will be taking the session forward. The floor is all yours, sir.
Okay. So good afternoon to all very, very esteemed delegates, very, very senior management educators, and of course, my colleagues and friends on the dais. I believe we have about 60 minutes or so to do a discussion on a subject that could possibly last few days, right? Which is technology and the impact of technology on what we're doing, which is management education. But in the next 60 minutes or so, we will try and cover this important topic and hopefully leave you with some ideas. So we'll quickly start by looking at some context. Then we will have experts, three very eminent experts, to talk about the topic, which is digitization and online education. Is it a threat or an opportunity? Time permitting, we'll have a short Q&A, and then we will wrap up with some closing thoughts. I've got a few slides quickly to set the context, and I've drawn heavily from these two works from Professor Clayton Christensen, who's very well known to this audience, who's written a lot about disruption, technology, and how industries, the dominant player in the industries, go obsolete. What I'm trying to do here is to be a little bit of, play a role of to provoke you, draw some important contrast from other industries, because I think in a conference like this, we talk 8 hours only about our sector. I think when we talk about technology, it's important to look around and see what's happening to the other industries, and are there some important lessons over there. So let's quickly look at the music industry that we're all familiar with. This is a World Economic Forum report, which says the global recorded music revenues in 2021, 65% of that has moved to streaming, and only 19% is in physical format. All of this has got implication to management education, and hopefully in the next 60 minutes, we will be able to connect some of these dots. 65% of the global music market is actually streaming. It's not the music labels, it's not the CD-ROMs, it's not the other, various fancy iPods, etc., but it's basically streaming. If we look at another industry that I'm familiar with, is the broadcast industry. And if we see what's happening over there, even in Indian context, majority of the subscription revenues are actually being taken over by what are called as apps or subscription services or streaming services. So Amazon, Eros Now, Disney Hotstar, Netflix, these are 4 dominant players. And what does this mean for management education? You have to pause and think and reflect and then connect the dots. And these are 2 big industries which are offering intangible services and products. And my argument is that they are very similar to what we are doing. So there could be several implications of this. I will not get into too much of this right now. I'll get the experts to talk about it. If you look at another industry, which is retailing, even in a country like ours, where we know the importance of rural market, so on and so forth, already 25% of the total organized retail market has moved online to the apps. And it is expected that it will become 35 to 40% in very, very soon. Now, I've talked about 3 industries and how these 3 industries are undergoing transformation. And my argument is that management education, business education is also undergoing a seismic transformation. But are we seriously looking at the impact of technology on what we are doing? Let me fill the context with 2 or 3 more data points. As we know, the demand for management education, if we measure it through, let's say, CAT exam, is stagnant. I'll give you a quick data point. In 2012, the number of people who wrote the CAT exam was 214,000. 10 years later, 2021, the number is 230,000. So we are talking about technology as a force from one side, and then there are some big changes on the demand side, the flat market. So no change in the number of CAT test takers in the last 10 years. The other side is that you are seeing rise of competition. We know various type of competition, and this panel will talk about all those competition. There is a greater level of complexity. Technology is now entering into each and every domain of the value chain of a B school, whether you talk about admissions, or you talk about the core curriculum and teaching, or you talk about the outcomes. Technology is actually impacting and creating more complexity on each of these segments. So the whole world is getting disrupted with technology. My 3 slides from music industry, retailing, and broadcast industry. Second, our market is flat. And when it is a flat market in a country like ours, it's actually degrowing. And you are seeing the competition increasing, especially from the online players, which we'll talk about in a very, very big way. So here we are. This is the context. And that's the reason why, although it's talked about that India has got 3,600 management schools, actually that data is wrong. Let me give you some facts. There are only 382 PGDM business schools in the country. This number used to be 800 10 years back. So the number is actually halved. Just imagine what we are going through. We are privileged to be sitting in an AC hall, and we are representing the top end of the pyramid. So that's why we don't possibly feel the pain as much. But just think about what's happening. 400 to 500 business schools are actually shut down. There are 20 IIMs that we all know of. There are 10 government-sponsored Ministry of Commerce, institutions like IIFT and several others. And there are about 200 private universities which have a management program of some, let's say, semblance of a B school. That if you add these numbers, it's 612. So that's the number of management schools in the country. It's not 3,600. Rest all are operating as affiliate colleges where the fees for 2-year program is sub 1 lakh rupees. That's not management education. So I think it's time that we really understood the nature of Indian management education, and then figure out that we need to create a thought process where different segments are able to do justice to what they have. There is nothing good or bad. I think each of these institutions have got different roles. So it's funny and interesting that school number 1,000 or 1,500 says, I want to be a global business school when they write for accreditation. You know, that's a wrong and a false paradigm. We should actually, you know, we should, and all of us are in a very privileged position, EPSI and other bodies represented in this room, to create a fact check and actually guide the entire pyramid, and I'll talk about it later as we go along, rather than, you know, trying to create 3,500 global business schools. That's a false notion. And it all connects back to technology, and then, you know, because it creates cost pressure, it creates competition, so on and so forth. So what are the implications of management education of all this? We will wait and come now to the core topic of our discussion, which is technology, digitization, and impact on business schools. Now, this is a way that I wanted to structure this panel. Technology, there is a technology which are enablers. And then there are technology-driven players which are actually competitors. You're not realizing it, but they're eating away small and small and small and small parts of what we are offering. And the day is not far when, you know, the elephant may no longer be there. So technology is definitely should be seen as an enabler. There are parts of that. And then technology and technology-driven players are definitely competitors. So we've gone through the first decade where we've you know, hugged the frenemies, as they're called. But now is a time where we need to actually sit back and think, you know, where we are and where the future is headed, and then be very mindful of the choices about technology and technology players that we are, you know, going to take as we go along. So technology as an enabler and technology as a competitor. So these are two paradigms through which we can look at various kinds of technologies which are there. And with this, let me pose these few questions to the panel members and then invite all of you, each of you one by one. What is the impact of technology and digitization on business schools? The core topic of our discussion is online education a threat or opportunity? And then what is the future of management education in the age when there is a massive technology explosion? And we are already talking about a metaverse era, which is just about a decade away, where you can take an avatar and you can get into, you know, a business school, which is a virtual business school. All that's very, very near. So if I've shocked you enough, you know, it was with purpose, because you just had a lunch, and now, of course, you're in the right frame to listen to our esteemed speaker. So with that, let me invite my dear friend, who's traveled all the way from Mumbai, the director of Jamnalal Bajaj, to please come and share his thought and reflect on you know, this paradigm of that we've talked about, which is technology as an enabler and technology as a competitor. So I'm sure with your with you being a strategic management guru, you will be able to look at you know, this paradigm very, very closely and give us some possible thoughts. Over to you. Let's put our hands together and welcome.
Very good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks EPSI for inviting 𝗟𝗲𝗱𝗃 sir and the entire team, respected guests on the dais and off the dais. What a fantastic topic. Anybody in this crowd can say, do you have any impact on the digital or maybe enabler or competitor or online? Today, if we talk about the top Fortune 500 companies, the number of companies, what we talk about, 15 plus companies, they were not existed before. Doesn't mean that the company, whichever surviving today, they are not dead. For example, Walmart, always the premium retailer. Today we talk about online versus offline. Do you think that Amazon replaced the Walmart? No. Walmart could able to replace, completely reinvent their business model. Now they could able to adapt the technology, and it's other way, the way Walmart is doing, Amazon could able to replicate from Walmart and coming with a physical store. The impact of digitization when you talk about, What if, again I'm telling you, because countries absolutely today what country we are in, whether we can call VUCA or tuna, right? These are the nomenclature what we use. And inconvenient truth, can you name any one industry doesn't have impact of digitization? Any one? Then we talk about online and disruptive innovation. When you talk about the Clinton, the professor which talk about the brought the termination, even he said Uber is not a disruptive innovation. But everybody will talk about Uber disrupted the industry of mobility. But in his article, he never mentioned that disruptive innovation is what he defines the market which is untapped, which is low price and volume driven. That's what Clinton explains. Now, I'm sure most of the people are sitting here, premium business school. Do you think we get a competition from the people like, I'm not denying it, there is no regret, and I'm not blaming them. Please understand that before when I make a statement. I love LinkedIn. I have 12,000 LinkedIn. They also approached us. They also come up with the course. But as a premium business school, the business school, whatever we run here, maybe top 100 IIM or top 100B school. Today, the business schools are highly skilled, labor-intensive business. You can't compare the business school model, what we run with top 100. Last 2 years, people approached me. Sir, we are from edX, we are from LinkedIn, we are from Coursera. Would you like to do that? I said the morning also that value for money we talk about, value for many we talk about. I'll come to the topic what value for money the later the stage. When people are paid full-time faculty with a 7th pay salary, you are allowing to grow somebody on your own effort. I can't compare my business model with the guy who do business online. I can't compare my business because there is a Burn there is one of the finest bookstore in US. They call B&M. One of the best store in the US. And Amazon came into the business and started selling books online. Everybody said B&M is going to die. But he could be able to reinvent the business model. He could be able to grasp it faster. And he could have, because the pulse of the retail believes on that experience, logistics and distribution. And that online business runs with UKB model. You know what is UKB model? Upar wala ka bharosa. Everything server based. I'm not questioning, I'll come to the point. Definitely that also good. Because when you talk about, I'm happy Agnihotri ji mentioned couple of points. It is like a competition or enablers. They are only enabler, they can't compete. Because, do you mean to that brand, Mini Cooper is same to the Beetle? Or do you mean to say that Beetle going to compete with Wagoner or Alto? Anybody in the class? All are four-wheeler, all the vehicles, unfortunately, it has only 5 doors, 4 tires. Nobody can say this doesn't compete. Only segment competes. Both are different segment. And today, education also became demonetization. For an example, do you think that there are big corporate KPMG top 4? Would you like to recruit those guys from that guys done from Coursera? Would you like to pay the package? Where we are having 100+ acre infrastructure, having a good quality physical infrastructure and invest on the money. We are in a different business of knowledge. How can you be able to compare with the business? They are only enablers. It is something like a pickle. No, pickle is only a side dish. You can't have a main menu. You can't have a pickle as a main menu, main food. That is only a supporting one. But again, I'll come to the point, what will be the future of, definitely they are going to compete as far as the volume is concerned. Because what is disruptive innovation according to Clinton says? Value for money. Because even top 20 B school IIMs, how many people they could able to address? Just now only they have taken the numbers, increase. Morning I was mentioning Bajaj. Last 65 years, we never increased the admission more than 120 seats. The number of publication we get 110,000. Neither I don't have a capability or competency, even if we don't want to do that. Simultaneously, because when you talk about, as we said, Bowen's law, kindly check it out on Google, what does it mean? Bowen's law talks about, in academia, it is labor intensive, cost rises per student in a long run in general, in a regular business school, what we talk about. Our cost, physical investments are high. How can you be able to recover it? In online, Create a online content, make it into volume, low price, not even 1/10 of the price. But are you going to bring experience to the class? Again, Agarwal sir morning mentioned 50% students need to be experienced in the class. How can you able to bring experience in that online? But again, I'm telling you, online is having a capability and competency. They bring all the experiences in down the line few years. Because that's what technology proved us in last few years. I still remember 4 GB hard disk was weighing 2.5 kg with 6,500. But today the memory card, what we use, 2 grams. The price is not even, not even few hundred. Earlier it was 1,000. Technology will completely going to replace. We have to accept the reality. Then what about the future then? Exactly, this is the business schools, what they are supposed to do. Mixed or blended or hybrid model. Because we have a brand, we have a leverage. How can you able to leverage out of it? We have a faculty. My cost to the faculty is same. How can you able to generate extra revenue? That I can able to extend it. If we could able to offer that full-time programs, we can able to leverage the market because we can able to tap the untapped market. Because that boundaryless business, it could be a flipping the classroom or twinning or regrounding or hubbling. There are multiple jargons are coming up in the business schools. Even Harvard reluctant to go for hybrid model. I attended few workshops. Still they said we are 80 lakhs. Even today, MBA is costing 60 lakhs. Now I'm coming to the other part of the story. If every MBA is costing 20, 15 lakhs, there are untapped market. They also need MBA. Simultaneously, the market which is emerging in the market, gig economy. What gig happening it? Temporary employment. Tomorrow I can sure the guys will have MBA, will be working with Swiggy. Will be working in Uber, Ola. Possibility. I still remember, if we talk about any brands, Uber, Ola, Oyo, when they came into the room, 1,20,000 keys. To execute one room from Tata Ginger takes 40 rooms, they took 3 to 4 years. But the number of rooms, what they acquire in Oyo rooms, in just a day. Maybe the 40 rooms, maybe in 2 hours. The volume and scale, what the digitization can do, it's an inconvenient truth the conventional business can't do. So what will happen then? Instead of blaming them, today what's happening is, Oyo rooms, if you go and check it out, Tata also listed the Ginger hotel. Anyway, I'm getting business. If it comes through Ginger, additional one business, why should I say no? Now what I will do, instead of against the technology, as a physical business school, can I able to bring that technology to scale it up and volume my business? Can I able to bring my business, little bit value addition to that? With the digital support, artificial intelligence, maybe gamification, which we couldn't able to do that. And definitely the market what we attract, untapped market, which is volume driven, which is low price. And your MBA also became demonetization. But the guy who does from that Coursera or LinkedIn, I don't want to name it, they may not get top 4 consulting company with 50 lakh package. But does it mean that if you go in Wagoner or Alto, you are a poor guy? No. In fact, they are successful to driving in Indian roads than driving in Rolls Royce. Because roads are same. So I think time is off. Wish to address more questions when you come to the question answers. Because when you talk about competition, segments are different. Within segment is different. I'd like to quote one example and I conclude. I still remember most of the places. Sir is also here. You can go to India's all best holy places. They serve lack of food every day, including your place also, in Mysore. Tirupati, 1,80,000 foods. Foods are delivered free. And people are against in the local restaurant. If I give food free, what will happen to my hotel business? Do you think they will shut down their business? Everybody flourish. Because the country what we are in, country is big, volume is big, let think wise, use the technology, max it, instead of competition, collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Iyengar. You've lived to your reputation of provoking us even more. And I've got several questions, but I will, put one question in your mind so that you can think over And as I invite Naveen to deliver the next talk, Naveen, please. My question to you, which I will come back after all the speakers have spoken, is, to use the time effectively, is what should be the response in simple 2 lines? What should be the response of a leading business school? We will not name that school. To see, enablers are fine, we all understand, right? ERPs and CRMs and LMSs, etc. But what about the content providers who are collaborating as well as competing? And possibly the guy may say, oh, let me do these 3 courses this year and I will figure out to do an MBA later. That's a reality today. And I've showed you that the demand for management education has not changed one bit in 10 years. So something is wrong. So, yes. Yeah, so, my dear speaker.
I think Sir has set a solid ground for me. I am on enabler side.
And Naveen, with his great experience of having played a role of an enabler for more than a decade, is in a great position to tell us how technology can be used as an enabler. Over to you, Naveen.
So, first of all, thank you, Team EPSI, President Sir, Dr. Chaturvedi Sir, for this opportunity. It's always been my pleasure to part of EPSI events and gathering. In fact, my age is, I guess, almost equal to experience of most of the people sitting here. So it's really a pleasure. I always go back with a lot of learning. So Sir already spoke about online education and the delivery, and Sir tried giving us depth understanding of whether it's a playing role of supplement and complement. I come with a little different side of it. My area of expertise is more on process side. That comes a step ahead before even the student get into a campus. That's at admission time. So what we have seen at large while doing digital transformation at that step, both institution and the students are getting a larger benefit in terms of time, efficiency, and cost. Students are giving online interviews today, and they are appearing for 3 to 4 interviews a day. Even the company like us are hiring completely virtually today. So what I will do is, in another 4-5 minutes, without taking much time, I will try to say a few real-time examples where we have tried bringing digital transformation in B school, and then we'll try to share, and then you decide whether it's an opportunity or threat in terms of process is concerned. So before COVID, right, you all know, you are part of this, you have been running your campuses from a decade and more. Before COVID, post-application process, which is about shortlisting a student, inviting them for interviews, managing evaluator, managing logistic, inputting their score, and then generating offer letter. It used to be complete offline exercise. We piloted this with BIMTech. Sir is sitting here, right? And today it is adopted by a large set of B schools in country. What we have seen is, in terms of ROI, it's a 94% cost optimization. In terms of the student turnout, it's a 15% higher. What we did is we tried benchmarking in the offline days, how many students used to appear in the offline environment for the interviews. It used to be around 75 to 76% of students who got called from campuses. At large, it's a mix of average I'm telling about. What we have seen now with the online interviews, it's 89. What it means at large, the access and the opportunity a campus, a B school got in country is large. Now across India, students are appearing for the institution. So BIMTech started with IMI, SPGen, Narsi Munji, V School, all these have adopted transformation of post-application process. Even the company like us are doing the same way, and we think it's going to be stay here, COVID or no COVID, because we got a habit, we have seen the impact in terms of time, efficiency, and the money. The second use case, it's very interesting on that side, payment and education financing. What it means is, before COVID, in fact, at the COVID time, we got an opportunity because we are on that side where our role is to work hands in hand with university and institution, learn from them and then implement, so that we can enable them to make larger impact. So in COVID time, what we got is, we got an invite requirement. Once after placing an offer letter, institution have to collect fees, some kind of token money. So let's say if your course program is 10 lakh, you might have to collect 2 lakh rupees. And it used to be at large DD and check. Now imagine the banks were closed, institutions were closed at large. So we worked with the admission director and marketeers and the chairmen, right? And we enabled the online payment option. It's just not about collecting the money online, but you think from an admission director perspective, when you are giving an offer, at the same time you are giving an option to student along with a workflows in terms of how much scholarship you want to give based on the program, gender or whatnot, right? And same time you can define the deadline. Next 15 days you have to make this payment. On the dashboard, a student is getting an option to make payment. And if they are not paying, you are able to kick in your wait list. We transacted 1,000 crore online money in last 15 months. 1,000 crore, which used to be at large in form of DD and check. And it's with a very, very small pilot at admission time. 1.9 lakh students transacted in these 15 months, on an average 50,000. What we are saying is out of $76 billion money which is happening for private education, we'll be able to digitize the payment by 1 billion in next 1 year. So that's the kind of impact. The second use case, when we were discussing this with the chairmen and owners and directors, what we realized, 30 to 40% of the students were bouncing back even after getting the offer letter. And that was new for us. How come students are bouncing back when they are getting a call from institution to take admissions now? They are selected. And then we realized a large set of these students were running out around for the education loan. Ignoring some, banks still ask for the collateral. They have still negative profile in terms of the kind of family background you come from. Tier 3 and below still have the challenge in terms of taking education loans. And then there are second set of the students, those who were running around to arrange this money. What we did is, we piloted it again with the banks and NBFCs in country. On the same dashboard, when students are making, this is an example which is live and running. On the same dashboard, as a student, let's say you have to make a payment of 10 lakh rupees, you are getting an option to make that 10 lakh into EMIs. Or let's say 1 lakh rupees, you can do it 10,000 into 10 EMIs. No more running around, no more offline process, no more collateral. It's based on the algorithm and the institution where we are working in. So we piloted with the IMI, it's live, we are working with the HCL, it's live, and then we are scaling it up now. That's the second use case where we have seen the large impact of digital transformation. Similarly, on the third side, and all these use cases, believe me, right? So our background is tech, but what we have been able to understand and deliver is because of people like you, those who have really handled, right? I strongly always thanks Dr. Chaturvedi sir that you are the first B school who trusted us, and we learned a lot because we never have been on admission chair, we never have been on marketing chair, we never ran campuses, but we learned with you guys, right? So again, one more use case. What we realized, once a student apply in the campuses in B school, every campus at large asks for examination body to pass on the CAT score or MAT score or CMAT score or whatever score you accept. And that's again offline method. And we were surprised that you are requesting in offline way to get this score and validate it. Though we are still have to solve this problem, but we have been able to solve it for NMAT, which is again for at large NMAT by GMAT, which is for largely for the university examination. What happens is, as soon as a student apply for any university and they punch in their examination application number, a system auto fetch their exam score backend in the panel. So as an admission director, I don't have to request score, I can verify on click, and my merit list generation process is much faster. Again, document verification, right? In old age, and this is one of the largest use case, which is heavily used by a large university, Manipal, SRM, LPU, all these universities where the processing is, why I'm naming these universities because of the volume they are transacting compared to. So very, very heavy number of applications they get at large, right? So what we did is, we have integrated it with Aadhaar, DigiLocker. What it means is a student can fetch their 10th, 12th UG marks. As an admission director, you really don't have to manually check it. It's an auto fetch. You will see whether it's a okay verified or not. The time it saves in terms of document verification is amazing. And the last from my side is this. How can we put, which Amit bhai pointed, how can we enable, as an enabler, how can we enable institution to scale more? And that's where we are working, we are learning with people like you. Our idea is day in, day out, learn from you, and then enable you while understanding the student touch point. Today, for example, just to give a context, we process 1.2 million, which is 12 lakh application every year on our platform with 600 partners. We process around 22 million, which is like 2.2 CR inquiries, registration on our platform. What it means is it is giving us a lot of insight about student and their behavior, how they are browsing the website, how they are browsing the internet, what kind of social media they are landing on, what kind of content they are browsing, what kind of video they are browsing before applying it. In fact, if sir allows, right, I'm sharing it. Last week only I was looking into a message where team was congratulating BIMTech for achieving one of the highest number in history in terms of application. And when I was discussing, the idea is it's not because of us. They were able to optimize it. The process is year on year, year on year. And once you start optimizing the process, it's natural. If you understand the student behavior and you know your campus, and if you match it up on runtime basis, there is no way you will not be able to scale it. It's just about matching and using technology for better, technology for positive notes, right? This is again about putting institution on the driver's seat on runtime basis. Imagine like 5 years back or 10 years back, I remember at least when we were learning, as a owner, as a chairman, I was dependent on XLS or the MIS reports to know what is working, what is not working for my institution. I have to wait for the data, no more. It's 1 minute view. For example, there is a slide. By spending just a 1 minute, as an admission director, as a chairman, I know what is working for me or what is not working. So overall, we think as far as the process is concerned, if you utilize it better, if we work together as an institution and the company, it's for good. It's for good for institution, it's for good for students also. Thank you. I think I took little extra time. Sorry for that. Thank you.
We'll bill you for that. Don't worry. Come. So, thank you, Naveen. Your passion as an entrepreneur is clearly visible to all of us. You've done great. And I think you've underscored one of the points that I've tried to make in my slides is that used well, technology is a great enabler. But we are still to discuss and find some answers about the competitor part, which is the tricky issue. If we are able to find some answers from the panel, fine. Otherwise, there are some eminent educators in the room, and I will take the liberty to request a few of you to share your experience about how do you see the content creators, the people who are saying they will provide skills. Do you see them as enabler? You see them competitors? You see them in some other light? But before we do all of that, let me invite Aziz, who is the Director of International Business Development at Becker Professional Education, which I believe is a leading global provider of accreditation content in the finance and accounting area. I hope I've got that right.
Yeah. 100% right.
Over to you,
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's well. I think, sir, you woke everyone up with your session anyway, after lunch. First of all, I must say it's an absolute honor to be here, once sharing the panel with the distinguished guests that we have here, all the speakers today. Most importantly, yourselves, directors, promoters, faculty, gurus. I think you're the most important people, of course. And also, I must say thank you to EPSI for allowing Becker Professional Education from the US to support today's event and the great work that you're doing for business education in India. I would just say back to the question for a second, a threat or an opportunity for business schools. I think, as with all forms of evolution or revolution, and I think digitalization online is a little bit of both, I think we'll all agree. Inevitably, there is an inevitability that some will be extinct. And we've seen, we talked about earlier, I think, how many business schools over the last 2 years have unfortunately not made it through. Whether that was as a result of online education or not, there's an inevitability about what happens in terms of any type of change. And in my mind, a lot of this is all about adaptability, and I think we've touched on that across the sessions today. And it's about having, one, the foresight to see change coming. Secondly, it's about having the positivity and courage to ride that change, and then ultimately the willingness to adapt to that change. And those are the organizations, the institutions, like all of these institutions here today, yourselves, that have been able to do that so successfully. And there are always some that are at the start of that evolution. There are always some that trigger a revolution. But ultimately, and you get first mover advantage by doing that. But ultimately, it is those who are able to recognize that to survive, to thrive, we need to be able to join in to whatever that change is. Now, what does joining in mean in this context, in the context that we're talking about today? Digitalization, online education. What are we doing? It does not necessarily mean exclusively adopting online education. Of course it doesn't. Nobody's doing that. It's really about, I guess, recognizing the appetite of the consumer, the students. And it's about leveraging the tools to satisfy the appetite of those consumers. And there will always, there always will be, always is a strange word in the 21st century, the way that change is happening. But, for the foreseeable future, there will always be an appetite, a taste for in-person training or whatever have you. And I've seen it firsthand. Becker Professional Education, they provide training for professional qualifications like the US, equivalent of the US Chartered Accountant qualification. We've been doing that for over 25 years. And interestingly enough, we realized that in a country like the US, the expanse of the US, the flexibility that was needed for working professionals to study these type of qualifications, and most importantly, the technical advances that were available back then, 25 years ago. And to put that in context, that was moving away from obviously in-person classrooms with the projectors, all of those things, even then moving to CD-ROMs as people were able to use those technologies to self-study, all of those things. And today, almost 90% of the students who study with Becker Professional Education are using online self-study formats. That's almost 30,000 students. And I note at this point, earlier today, Shri 𝗕𝗓𝗓𝗓, in his opening speech, was talking about the perils of restricting student numbers. And most importantly, how quantity can drive innovation and growth. And whilst I'm a little ashamed to use this quote, or the person who I'm going to quote in this context, there's a great quote out there: quantity has its own quality. I won't tell you who that's by. Look it up on Google, because I'm ashamed to quote this person, but it's a great quote nonetheless. And that's very much something which I think many of the schools here have taken advantage of. It's critical that business schools can take advantage of it. I think it's exactly what Shri 𝗕𝗓𝗓𝗓 was talking about today, and definitely Becker has been able to take advantage of that as well. But at the same time, there's still a proportion who want live training, and that will always be the case, live education. Yes, Corona has made that live online, but a decent chunk of people still, students, learners, wherever they are, whether they be at higher education, whether they be in professional education, feel the necessity to have live training. I think there was a report in the midst of the COVID pandemic by McKinsey, which stated that their survey was over 36% of learners preferred classroom training, and another 40% would decide one way or the other when those options were there. So essentially, there's a big pull still at that time towards live training. Anyway, back to the question: digitalization and online education, is it a threat or opportunity? And as I mentioned, it's about really, the real question is, it's about the ability to provide a menu which can satisfy the appetite for those that are looking to dine at your table. So what is it that people want at your table? That's the real question that you need to ask yourselves. Are you looking to invite people who otherwise wouldn't have had access to courses? Be it for diversity, inclusion, whether it be on a geographic basis, whether it be on an economic basis, to be able to grow your talent pool. Is that something that you're looking to do? Digitalization in that context has to be an asset. if we're looking for access to more, different skilled faculty, of course we have some of the greatest faculty available within India here. But again, if you think about what we can do with digitalization, being able to bring in faculty, not on a permanent basis, but leverage faculty from all around the world. Secondly, leverage working professionals. How much do we use working professionals, not to come in and teach necessarily, but to bring in some of their expertise, their experiences when it comes in the context of case studies, workshops, job readiness, vocational skills. Those people are there, they can inspire the future generation of business leaders that are all being taught by you. That's something, again, that technology has enabled us to do. So you talked about the use of AI, gamification, how critical, again, that is. Bringing those tools in. Those tools are as important as being able to access, and again, they are so important in terms of the question about accessibility. And also leveraging innovative content like the AI, the gamification, and it doesn't have to be from the business school. There's so many options out there in terms of third parties that deliver content in a new way, innovative way, that even if it's online, it can still be engaging. Those case studies that we talked about, absolutely critical. And what does that mean in terms of the fact that this is coming for anywhere in the world? The impact on those students can be priceless, maybe even immeasurable. Well, let's think about this. What does it mean to measure that? Of course, you can actually measure it, right? Because the result is essentially getting more and more complete students, getting these different diverse inputs, so to speak, in terms of their education, and then, therefore, the employability of those individuals, the readiness to recruit from major global companies, regional companies, national companies, is why someone comes to your business school in the first place. So that is an automatic measure. Essentially, what you're doing is it's coming full circle. By providing these new tools, leveraging the best faculty, working professionals, all of these different tools and assets, we were able to create complete students, and therefore that's visible, measurable, in terms of the placement rates and all of those things. It becomes a virtual circle, if you like. And yes, we have some of the top business schools here. We have the top faculty here. And again, it's such an honor to be here as part of this. And you will always continue to manufacture the brightest management talent going forward. But by being able to recruit the top raw materials, we all know any product is both dependent on the manufacturing process, which you all do so well, but it's also on the raw materials. And if you're able to attract those raw materials because they have the confidence, they know that they're getting the best training here, it's going to make everyone, that whole circle, so critical. I just want to touch on one final point in terms of some of the points that were talked about earlier today at the beginning of this session, in terms of also, how can online education and digitalization help, is around affordability. We've touched about it a little bit today. As Professor Viswanathan said earlier today, in the opening address, it has to be used to be it can be used to be such a great equalizer. Of course, there's inclusivity and diversity in terms of geography, but the marginal cost of programs can come down so significantly by being able to utilize. Okay, so very quickly, in terms of leveraging online education, EdTech, all of these organizations have been able to do that because they're able to bring down the marginal cost. And if we're able to pass on that marginal cost to individuals, that brings in inclusion, access to affordability, which is absolutely critical to all of our endeavors. Because if we're able to bring in individuals who are otherwise unable to tap into the high-class education that you get, we're ultimately supporting them, supporting the communities, and therefore the business environment as a whole. Of course, there are necessary restrictions and whatever else that are there from a physical perspective. By taking those out, online education emboldens and empowers education beyond that. Just to show, and I think the other key point is, none of this comes without cost. We appreciate that. Everybody appreciates that. And I think the other important thing that we all need to do, and I'm sure we all do, is to be able to articulate the value of the tools and the offerings that we're providing through online education. So please, it's a dichotomy in terms of affordability while also offering a fair price, but I think that's the exciting opportunity, that there are various groups, and it's about our ability to target certain organizations, institutes, groupings that we feel that we can really benefit from. And I think that's the key thing, to be able to show that. I'm going to cut myself short off there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Aziz. In your very nice English, you said basically, there are different tables, and there are different offerings on each of the tables, and then it's up to the community and the student community to go to a particular table for a particular, benefits or solutions, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Absolutely. Great. So I think we've all covered the first leg. I've got a few questions, but I want to request all of you to share your questions. Please, let's make it interactive. We have about 10-15 minutes, and let's try and get the best of it. So if there are some mics in the room, can someone please confirm that there are some mics in the room? And I'm going to request you to keep your question as question, not as a comment. It should be a 15-second question, and the answer will also be less than 1 minute. That's what we will try and do, so that we are able to make this as interactive as possible. So as we get some mics in the room, Professor Srini, my question to you: how should you look at the content providers? Are they enablers? Are they competitors? Who are they? I mean, what's the relationship B schools ought to be looking at?
Yeah. You don't need to go to Boston to buy mutual funds. You don't need to go to Hollywood to produce the movies. Because of technology, location became irrelevant. And today, if Sir is wearing Rado, Aziz is wearing Longines, I am wearing a Tissot. There is a brand called Harris Winston. Yeah, it's Longines. I know that, right? So, a Swatch, Flicklock, all 20 brands owned by the same company. Today, the brand called Luxottica, 60% of the optical brand in the world owned by a single company. L'Oreal and Garnier owned by the Nestle. Even if you go one step ahead, if you talk about India's largest selling 4 mobile brands, Oppo, Vivo, Realme, OnePlus, all 4 brands owned by the one company called BBK. So what is the moral of the story? If you have a good capability and competency, one business school can run multiple programs with the help of technology, provided if they have a capability and competency. Thank you.
Great. That's a useful answer. Before we get into Q&A, may I request 2 very senior educators, yes, Dr. Pawan Singh and Dr. Anup Singh, sir, to very briefly just reflect on this, core issue. We all understand and appreciate technology as an enabler by now, and we've seen a case study here. But what about, content creators who may be, eating some parts of your you are also into executive education, you're also into skilling, so on and so forth. So how do you, very candidly, because that will guide all of us in terms of how we could formulate our thoughts. Sir.
Just quickly, because there is a promise within 60 seconds.
Yes, the responses have to be 60 seconds or less.
Okay. Yes, very nice. Any B school working at the cutting edge advanced activity in terms of research or training, executive education, or even let us say PGPM, they have to actually bank upon the expertise of those who can actually add value to the institution, number one. And number two, that digitization and online education, the title, if you see, a threat or opportunity for Indian B schools, I think it was a post-lunch session, that's why this topic was kept like that, because it will raise eyebrow that why there should be a debate whether it is a threat or opportunity, because the created cannot be enemy of the creator. And who is the creator? Human being. And what is created? That is digitization and online education. It cannot be. And I will end up by saying, let us go back to Hindi grammar, जहाँ कहा जाता है कर्ता ने कर्म को करण से, ये सारे डिजिटाइजेशन, ऑनलाइन टेक्नोलॉजी, इंजीनियरिंग, ये सभी करण हैं. ये आपके दुश्मन हो ही नहीं सकते। इस पर डिबेट के हम क्या कर रहे हैं? ये तो हमारे करण हैं, ये हमारे बढ़े हुए हाथ हैं। जैसे लिवर से हम माउंटेन हिला सकते हैं, हाथ से नहीं, लेकिन लिवर आदमी ने बनाया है, वो करण है। कर्ता कैसे इस्तेमाल करेगा, अब कॉन्शियसनेस स्टडी की ज़रूरत है। करण को कोई दोष ना दें। थैंक यू।
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
These are very useful, rich perspectives for all of us.
What I would like to add that the traditional business schools don't have certain competencies. They don't have technology. They don't have the capacity to create contents which would be attractive. They don't have marketing competencies. So when you bring such competencies, you have to share your profits, surpluses with them. And if you are not ready for that, and those who will not do it, they are going to be out of the market. So it is better that we collaborate with such providers, and it would create new markets on the one hand, and it would also have a greater impact on the society.
Great. That's a very pragmatic answer from a very pragmatic person who I have known for now more than 25 years. Thank you, sir. Now, are there some questions in the room that we ought to be asking the panel here? I see a hand raised here. We have about 5 minutes or so. Please go ahead. Please make your question very brief.
Yeah, my question is very simple. Once we are claiming to be digitalization of our education system, why we are unable to attract students going abroad? Our institutions are no less than any of these, Harvard or MIT or California. What is wrong in our system?
Okay. Question is how, with using technology, why are we not able to retain flow of student outside? Anybody would like to comment on that quickly? And we can move on to the next question if there is any. Please.
I think most of the students who are going abroad for higher studies in management, they are joining face-to-face programs, not online programs. Online programs are used globally by students from the native country or from the foreign country. So I think this question is not raising any doubt about online education, but at the same time online education is still not having any edge on the face-to-face education. And yesterday one of the faculty from US University was talking to my colleague, and he was telling that right now there are 3 options in America for MBA pursuants. One is face-to-face, having campus experience. That is the most costly program. Then second is hybrid, a mix of online and offline. And third is digital. So I think these 3 kinds of options have different perspectives and different uses.
Great.
And again, that segment is different. The people who go for international studies, their value proportion is different, their expectations were different. Maybe if you see the simple economics data is different. Their experience, what they look out of the degree is absolutely different from the business schools.
And I would also just add, if everyone can hear me, is aapka question is coming as a threat that they're still going there, but actually, how many people are coming internationally to our business schools here? And I'm sure you're all seeing that the demand is now increasing in terms of that, and that's again the opportunity on that same point.
Great. So I think it's time for us to wrap the session. And as the moderator of the session, I think we've had a useful 1 hour of discussion. The objective was to discuss a controversial issue, to wake you up after a very nice lunch. And hopefully we've been able to do that. We were also able to draw in from experiences from some of the very senior people in the room, which is always my goal and my objective. So can we summarize the discussion in this manner by proposing a model which looks somewhere like this. And I think we've discussed, some parts of it here, that in times to come. You have a question, sir? Please go ahead.
I'm Professor 𝗕𝗫𝗏𝗏. Since the morning we have been talking about the management education. We are not looking at some of the newer models that some of our newer IIMs have brought in terms of the integrated MBA programs. Mostly we are talking about the 2-year MBA PGDM, but what about these new ones that are also becoming very popular? And digitization, how it's going to affect them or not? I think the point has been well taken that most people want online exams because we are so honestly appearing in those exams. But classes, definitely, they like offline. So that was my comment, that no place we have mentioned about these newer models that are also there. Thank you.
Yeah, the IPM program, now there are 5 IIMs offering the IPM program in India. Nirma University and some of the other universities offered it many, many years back. It's doing well. The issue with undergraduate management education is that the input to a school, to a program, is very different from the input to a postgraduate program, which MBA is. And if you are going to deliver to someone who just come out of the 12th standard the education online, their formative years as graduates, then how much of impact will it create? And so that remains something to think of. So to conclude the session and to try and put all the discussions that we've had, can we look at a future model of management education? And we will wrap this session in now 60 seconds from here, where there is a very big mass market model at the base, which is a completely online education model. And this is something that I was thinking as I was preparing for this session over the last 2-3 days, that technology is here to stay and we cannot wish it away. And we need to figure out a model where the two are able to coexist. Can this be the model? And of course, all of us can debate and think and possibly implement as we go along. So the base of the market is served through a completely online education model, which is a mass market model. Then we've got the middle portion, which is a premium model, which is basically 50 to 200 business schools offering a hybrid, a combination of online and face-to-face. So you can see the use of technology in these layers. And then at the top is the very customized, very highly experiential model, which is offered by small number of business schools who are truly world-class. And if we segment the market like this, as has been discussed here, use technology at the right place in the right way, possibly we are able to grow the pie a lot more. And my worry remains that why in a country like ours, we've not been able to grow the number of MBA applicants in the last 10 years. That's something for all of us to think about and find some solutions. So with this, thank you so much, and we end the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, panel members. Thank you for this enriching and comprehensive discussion on digitalization and online education. As rightly pointed out by the panel members, conventional classroom teaching is still the most preferred way of learning. However, technology, if appropriately used in the right way, in the right time, has a very significant role to play in the education system. With that note, we come to the end of this session. Please join me in thanking this fantastic panel out here. It was a great pleasure listening to them. We would like to express our gratitude by presenting the panel members with a small token of our appreciation. May I request Mr. Raveen Nair from QS iGauge to please present the certificate to Dr. Srinivasan Iyengar, Director, Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai. I now request Dr. Vishal Talwar, Director, IMT Ghaziabad, to please present the certificate to the panel members, Shri Naveen Goyal, founder and CEO, NoPaperForms, Mr. Aziz Tayyebi, Director, International Business Development, Becker Professional Education, UK, and Shri Amit Agnihotri, Founder Chairman, 𝗕𝑚𝑏𝑎�Universe.com. I now request Mr. Naveen Goyal, founder and CEO, NPF, to present the photographs to all the panel members, please. Now I request the panel to please come together for a group photograph.